is ABC 7 News This Morning.
Dr. Conrad Murray faces up to 4 years in prison after being convicted of causing the death of Michael Jackson.
We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Conrad Robert Murray, guilty.
The 58-year-old doctor displayed no emotion at hearing the guilty verdict. The jury deliberated for less than 9 hours before finding Murray guilty of involuntary manslaughter. He was led off in handcuffs after the judge denied him bail. Things were quiet outside Jackson's childhood home in Gary, Indiana last night. Neighbors say they hope the verdict helps the family find some peace.
I think he should have been found guilty, you know. I mean, that's just like somebody selling drugs on the streets, you know, and he knew better, you know, so I think they made the right decision.
Hopefully he will apologize for what he's done. What he did affected the world. Bottom line.
Well, attorney Thomas Glasgow is here now with a closer look at the verdict and what's coming up next.
Yeah, good morning, Thomas. Thanks for joining us. Now, what do you think were the factors that led to the guilty verdict for the jury?
Well, in order to understand the factors that led to the guilty, we have to understand what he was charged with. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter, which requires not an intent to kill, but a reckless disregard for someone else. It's no different than you driving down the street in a school zone 100 miles an hour after you've been drinking. Essentially what happened here is because he was using propofol to treat the insomnia for Michael Jackson, this powerful drug is supposed to be used under supervision, it's supposed to be used in an emergency room, have nurses, doctors, etc. around. None of that was being done. Essentially what happened is he's downstairs talking on the phone to one of his girlfriends. When the EMTs get there, he doesn't tell them that he's on propofol. He doesn't end up, he ends up doing CPR on Mr. Jackson while he's still got a pulse. He doesn't check his airways. One of the most telling things was the two experts that testified. One from the prosecution said that the death was due to a constant propofol drip. The defense ended up indicating that this was from a one big plunge, that somehow Michael Jackson had reached over and administered the drugs to himself. In the situation that we have with a reckless conduct issue, Dr. Conrad Murray provided the drugs to him regardless and gave him access to it, which led to a standard of care which was so far beneath what a doctor should have that it led to his finding of guilty.
So that's what surprised me, that even if Michael Jackson had done it himself, he's still charged with or could be convicted for involuntary manslaughter because he let the conditions.
Well, here's a person who's alleged to have had problems with drugs, and you have someone who's being paid $150,000 a month to provide drugs to someone who may have had a drug problem to begin with. It essentially, just as you know, the person who was just interviewed said, it's no different than legal drug pushing.
So now he stays in custody right away. That's what the judge said, right?
That's correct. One of the issues that the judge said was public safety, which leads into another issue of why he took him into custody and were there other civil remedies that could have been taken for the government aside from a criminal charge in this matter. Could he have, why was he taken into custody? That was presumably for public safety. That's what the judge said in his ruling. But public safety, this is not somebody like Jack the Ripper who's out, you know, knifing people or shooting people. This is someone who the only way and the only factor that he could end up endangering the public is through the use of his medical license. I used to be head of the medical prosecutions unit for the Illinois Department of Professional Regulation, and we routinely ended up taking licenses from doctors, summarily suspending them when they did things such as euthanasia, or they were accused of having pill factories when they would just, you know, prescribe randomly. We could take away that license and protect the public and not prosecute someone and get the same result.
Oh, much more to come on this case, Thomas.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I didn't know you've been involved in that, the licensing thing, so we got lots to talk about in coming weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Thomas. It is right now 6:07.